Notes of Truth with Julie Carrick. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm Keith Down, your host, and we're about to talk about a few things here this morning on Notes of Truth, like St. Thomas More, and how our young children may be more ready than we realize to learn truths of living out our faith. And of course, we're talking about all of that with Julie Carrick this morning. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning. Good morning. I love how we've had this conversation going on with Eucharistic Adoration and what we're going to kind of transition into now. One of the places that I take my grandchildren is adoration. And so to watch their little faces as they sit with our Lord is an amazing thing. And a cute, just a really precious thing. When our son was just an infant, we had the privilege of running a retreat center up in Flagstaff, Arizona, and we had the Blessed Sacrament Chapel in the house. And whenever he would get a little bit fussy, I would take him in this little baby carrier, and we would go into the chapel, and it's like he could see the angels. He would immediately kind of quiet. His little hands would be reaching up toward the tabernacle as we would kneel in the front of the chapel. So it's amazing what children understand with eyes that aren't so limited. I think as we get older, we tend to question too much sometimes instead of just being in that presence. But when we think about kids and how they, when are they ready to go deeper in faith? When are they ready for, learning the deeper truths and realities in our church? And so this past week, we had the opportunity to go to a movie about St. Thomas More. And I have such a joy on Mondays and Tuesdays because we're on summer break right now to have the kiddos with me. And so Monday night we went to the movie at our parish, A Man for All Seasons. And it's an older movie. It was made in 1966. And it's a great kind of an overview story of the life of St. Thomas More. And of course, he was a man who lived from 1478 to 1535. And his faith, his dedication to living his faith was so intense. And, we're right at that point at the beginning of the Protestant Reformation, and King Henry VIII was wanting everyone to agree with what he was doing versus staying solid with the teachings of the Catholic faith. And instead of giving into that, St. Thomas More was willing to die for the faith instead of giving in to what the world around him at that time was giving into. And I thought, I wonder if this movie is going to be too heavy for the kids, and yet I didn't want to hire a babysitter. We wanted to go together as family. And so we went, and now Maddie is 9 and Aaron is 5. So in the movie, because it was, filmed for what was that period of time, they had these great boats. That was their way of transportation between the palace and between the different places where people lived. And so Aaron was all about the boats. And he's like, no, these are great boats. And so I'm thinking, well, all I can tell him as we're watching is that this man is the king, and this man is St. Thomas More, and this is his family. And so I'm just kind of whispering to him who the people are. And we spared them the decapitation as how St. Thomas More was martyred. So we didn't let the littles, of course, they didn't actually show that in the movie, but we know that's how he died. Right. And so so Aaron was more about the, cinematography, the boats, the things that were in the movie. But we explained to him that this man was suffering in prison because he wasn't going to give in to the pressures of the world. Meanwhile, the 9-year-old granddaughter, Maddie, she's watching, and she's leaning over at one point, and she says, Nona, he's willing to die for his faith. And I said, that's right. And she said, shouldn't we all be willing to die for our faith? And I was just enamored of this child in that moment. I said, we should all be, willing to die for our faith. And hopefully we won't face that in our lifetime. But honestly, it made for a great conversation the next morning as we had our breakfast, and she brought up the movie again from the night before. And she said, is there anything that you see happening now in our world that would make us have to die for our faith? And ironically, this same child, little Maddie, was praying as part of the Seven Sisters Apostolate. And what that is, the Seven Sisters Apostolate is every priest in every parish should have 7 people praying for him so that he has an hour of covering of prayer every day. And it's a beautiful apostolate that began years ago. And I happen to be one of those 7 sisters in my home parish praying for our pastor. And last year, he was the associate pastor. He had to go back to Africa because of visa and a number of things that were happening. He had to go back to Africa in order to come back to the United States and continue serving here in our diocese. And my granddaughter wanted to know how she could pray for him. And she said, I know I'm not an adult, but can I be one of his 7 sisters? And I said, well, we are supposed to do a holy hour on our scheduled day. We go to adoration. We spend that hour praying for our priests that we are obligating ourselves to pray for. And she said, well, if I can't be one of the 7 sisters, can I be one of the little sisters? And I said, absolutely, you can be one of the little sisters. And so our daughter began taking our daughter started taking our granddaughter on her day of the week for a half-hour visit, which was enough for a child. A half hour was great to be in adoration. And so, but she understood that Father Williams, when he was in Africa, his life was in danger. In fact, while he was there for those 7 weeks to get everything finished, 2 of his classmates from seminary were martyred in Nigeria. And so she had a real understanding that this man was going back to a place that his life was literally in danger. He couldn't tell his family when he was going to be there because it would let and alert the people who wanted to kill him because of his faith that he was going to be there. So this 9-year-old child really had this amazing understanding that this man was willing to die for his faith. And yet he came back here to continue serving us in my home diocese here in Phoenix. And so to have the conversation with her at this tender age of 9 years old made me realize that our kids, we can either talk with them about the truths and the hard facts of what it means to truly live a Catholic life, or we can allow them to see the things in our world, which quite frankly are much more harsh. It's much more damaging to their souls if we don't step in and tell them, this is right, this is wrong, and to give them the tools and to help them unpack those tools that they have inside themselves. If you've got children in your life and they're baptized, they've already received the gifts. We as adults have to help them unpack those gifts at the appropriate ages when they need them. Maddie's going into 4th grade in the next school year, and so many difficult things are already happening at that tender age that she needs to be well armored with the truths and the teachings of our Catholic faith in order to not only have this foundational time of life, but it is the foundational time that's going to allow her to continue to live her faith and to continue to fall back on the graces that she needs in order to live her life and stay safe within the womb of Mother Church while she's living in the world. And so even though the 5-year-old wasn't ready for, that truth of martyrdom and what that is, he certainly was understanding that something exciting was happening and that this man was a saint, and that we got to learn more about St. Thomas More after watching the movie. And what was really beautiful is it taught him too that, as with many art forms, whether it's music, whether it's video, whether it's movies, we can use these things to teach children about these wonderful saints And, Blessed Carlo Acutis was also mentioned just briefly here. He was a young man. And to spend those last years of his life doing something so beautiful as a young person, as to bring together these Eucharistic miracles and to share that gift of that beautiful gift of the Catholic faith as a young person. And it reminded me of when I was a child. My family had sponsored a little one in Guatemala. There's so many ways of helping around the world, even if we physically can't go there. And my family was big on that as I was growing up. And so we had sponsored a little guy by the name of Catarino, and he lived in Chimaltenango, Guatemala. And when I was growing up, going through school and high school, we continued to support him. And my summer between junior and senior year, I went to Mexico to be an exchange student for those 3.5 months. And when I was there, I had the opportunity to go to Guatemala. And as I was on the bus going down into Chimaltenango, they stopped us when we were about a half an hour away, and they turned the bus around. And I was like, why aren't we continuing to go? And they said, there's unrest. There's people are being killed. We can't let you go there. We have to turn around. And the person who was killed that day, and I was only a half hour away from getting there, was Stanley Rother from Oklahoma, who is now Blessed Stanley Rother. And so here I was, a teenager, going there to meet a child who my family had sponsored because of our faith. And here, little did I know, years later, I would find that part of that connection of story in my life. So I don't think we're ever too young. I don't think we're ever too young. It's just how we share it and what stories are appropriate to age. So yay.
Yay. Wow. That was fantastic, Julie. There's so much to talk about. I think we might have to carry that conversation on over to our after show clubhouse. So thank you so much, Julie Carrick. We can catch more on We Sing Our Faith tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central. And the next time on Morning Joy, we'll be joined, of course, by Monsignor Charles Pope on Monday. But this might be us parting ways. If that's the case, well, hey, God bless and have a joyful weekend. And make sure to catch the rest of Morning Joy and also the Spirit World on our social media. So YouTube, Rumble, so on and so forth. Just search Morning Joy or GRN online. But if you're hanging with us on the second hour, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk with John Donahue of Truth Charting and so much more. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But like I said, if this is us parting ways, God bless and make it a joyful day and weekend. We'll see you after this break.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.